Okay. Move the buttons around. Where's record? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Out Loud class in conjunction with the Out Loud anthology by Red or Green Books. I'm here with my co-hosts, Starchild, Rachel, and Dougie Fresh, Douglas Calla. And how you guys doing today?
Doing
Yeah,
good.
pretty good. Not bad.
Good. How you doing?
Pretty good. So today we're talking about pioneers in different industries with LGBTQ persons. So I did have a list that I came up with, and I think a few of you had some people that you were bringing to the table that you wanted to talk about. Start out by saying, why is it important that we have this conversation? And it's because as we all know, representation is important, right? We've talked about that numerous times on this show about the different being able to see yourself in someone else and how that allows you to be comfortable in your own life and your own living, being true to yourself. So did anybody have anyone that they wanted to bring up before I go through my laundry list? Okay, or I can start it out. Most of these, I only brought 6 people, but most of these persons you guys have already heard of. So to start it off, as a pioneer, the first person that I wanted to bring to the table is known as the father of modern day computer science, also known as Alan Turing. He is the one who was actually able to crack the Nazi Enigma code, which contributed to the Allies winning in World War II. World War II? Yeah, World War II. And he was a homosexual man who actually ended up being persecuted for being homosexual. And as a result, even committed suicide with cyanide after how the country treated him after all that he had done. I did find out that recently in the 21st century, they did go back and make an apology and grant him a royal pardon after his death, so posthumously. Do you guys know about Alan Turing? Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I saw The Imitation Game. That's pretty much it. Yeah, but that was like my primer on him, basically. And no, I learned a lot from that particular movie. I mean, I haven't seen any biopic. I haven't seen any documentaries on him per se. But I did see that movie, and it really gave me like a pretty good education about who he was and obviously all of his struggles, and also his the movie indicated that he had like a lot of like mental illness issues and things like that too, and it was conveyed really masterfully via Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, so I really enjoyed that movie.
Well, and I think another important thing about him is the way that he was neurodivergent. Also, like Douglas alluded to that. And that's of course something that is often the case. There's often within the queer community, and the neurodivergent community have a lot of overlap. So I felt like that was an important part of his story as well. Just not, people not understanding him, and him, just being very logical and straightforward in how he was communicating, but all of the little nuances of the way that we talk Um, you know, he struggled with some of that, but he was a freaking genius. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
And he's a great example of how in this discussion of pioneers, because he made it possible for companies like IBM, Microsoft, others, other computer companies to be what they are today, but he really doesn't get the acknowledgement that he should for it. Um, he should be up there with like Steve Jobs, and he's not. So you can kind of see how LGBTQ members are normally erased out of the background, even though they are doing amazing things. Aside, this is a side note, has nothing to do with Alan Turing, and is probably in this room. I'm probably the only one who cares. But did you guys see that Billie Eilish came out?
Yeah, you posted about that. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did.
woo! How would she come out as?
So she didn't actually be like, "Oh, I'm coming out." Someone asked her about something in an interview, and she was just like, "Oh my God, I love women, like women." Da, da, da. And then someone was like, do you realize you just came out?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't really see that as a thing. Like, I like women, okay." But
I thought it was pretty cool that she just came out just like that, and she was
Like
like,
kind of
whatever.
casually,
Yes,
didn't really
exactly,
make like a
exactly.
yeah.
it wasn't like how you see people do it to like further their career or like make some
Yeah,
Right.
political statement.
exactly. It wasn't like an opportunistic thing.
Yeah, like it was
Yeah,
just
That's true.
correct.
Yeah.
genuine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I just liked how casual she was about it, and like you said, the other girl's like, you realize you just came out, and she was like, okay, so yeah.
Okay. And she had made the comment that sexuality, gender and sexuality shouldn't be so tied up in itself as it is. Like it shouldn't matter. Like a straight person doesn't have to come out. I shouldn't have to come out. Like, you know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
live your life, which is kind of cool. Okay. Sorry. I just saw that and that was like my excitement for today.
Yeah.
All right, so this next person we talked about on the show before, he also has a movie that just recently came out. His name is Bayard Rustin, and I might be saying it wrong. But he is an openly gay Black man during the civil rights movement who fought for both Black civil rights and LGBTQ rights. He was one of the close advisors to Martin Luther King Jr. And he was actually one of the people who organized the March on Washington, which Martin Luther King is well known for. He also helped write a lot of Martin Luther King speeches, and so on and so forth. But due to being LGBTQ, they wouldn't allow him to be the face of the movement, basically. And we've seen that a lot with the Black Civil Rights Movement. Claudette Colvin was kept from, she did the same thing as Rosa Parks, but they decided not to champion her because she was light skinned and pregnant out of wedlock. So we've seen them put prominent figures in the background to protect the optics of it all. But yeah, have you guys heard of Bayard Rustin?
Personally,
No,
I
I
haven't,
haven't.
Yep.
but not before hearing about about the movie that just came out. It's getting some awards buzz, I think. Looks like, but yeah.
I haven't got to see it yet, but I'm definitely excited to watch that.
Yep. Yeah, I've definitely heard of him, and yeah, I mean it's just crazy, like because like a lot of I mean I feel like throughout the history of these various different social movements, like queer people have always been in the background, and that was always, you go back to like the Harlem Renaissance, and like most of the people involved in that were a lot of the people involved in that were gay, like Langston Hughes, and that was one of the things that you know, the right-wing people, like that was one of their kind of leverages was, you know, in fighting like against, you know, socialism and you know, any kind of like social justice oriented movements. You know, it was like, you know, basically they used a lot of gay baiting, you know, to basically say, oh yeah, these queers, you know, they're like, that's what, you know, that's what this is about, and they're gonna, you know, come after your children and all that kind of shit. And
I think that his struggle is a great example of intersectionality, which
mm,
a lot of people kind of throw to the wayside. I know for myself, and I was talking about this the other day on AJ Houston 707 about how when you find someone who is championing for Black rights or African American rights, you always you get wrapped up in them, and then their next thing that they say is always anti-gay. And so it's like you can't, it's like you can't be both Black and gay, or you can't be pro-Black and gay, because it always gets, even if you're pro-Black, they always find a way to push homosexuality to the wayside. And I think he's an example of someone who is able to do both, champion for both sides, and prove that it does coexist. So that's why he's one of my favorite pioneers in the movement. Do you guys have issues with intersectionality in your own work and what you do?
I think in my context, the yeah, I mean, there's different ones. Like the only thing that I've dealt with personally is you know, being in spaces where my neurodivergence is a problem, and you know, which often isn't recognized, you know, as being part of, you know, the intersectionality conversation. You know, that's the only aspect that's affected me personally, but I've also like definitely witnessed, because a lot of the spaces that I'm in, like I'm a therapist, and the environments that I tend to be in are kind of bougie white liberal environments where they're like officially, you know, on the right team, sort of, but it's like, but just don't be, you know, don't be in my face, you know, with your queerness or your Blackness or your whatever, you know, like you still got to be a polite, you gotta act like a polite bougie white person, you know, but like I'll say the official things that are right, but I get uncomfortable, you know, if you come in, you know, and you know, and violate the sort of unwritten, you know, social codes of bougie whiteness or whatever.
Right. Um, you know, I see it a lot in the poetry world. You have people who ask you to perform, but they want you to perform a certain thing. Like Juneteenth, everyone wants a Black poet to speak, but they don't necessarily want you to speak and do queer poems. They want you to come in and talk about the Black struggle as if they're not intertwined. And we've seen the intertwining, with Marsha P. And other members in the LGBTQ movement, that it kind of intertwines with civil rights. But like it's famously been said, we're not free until everyone's free. So it's surprising how different the two groups are. So the next person I have is the Peanut Man. Growing up, I called him the Peanut Man, George Washington Carver. So I found out today, like, what do they say online? I was today years old when I learned that he did not create peanut butter. The Aztecs created peanut butter. So thank you to the Aztecs because I love peanut butter. But George Washington Carver, he was born a slave, but he grew up to be an agricultural scientist. And he was known for cataloging different aspects of different legumes, not just peanuts, and not just how they could be used in recipes. But one of the main things that he did with peanuts was using it to improve the conditions of soil in areas that have been depleted by cotton. So areas that grew a lot of cotton, it's was bad for the soil. So he would then, teach them, like, if you plant peanuts here, it'll, help the soil get back to a good space. And then with that, he did a whole catalog of ways that peanuts and other legumes could be used in cosmetics, painting, medicine, just a lot of different areas, not just, peanut butter, right? Because we all thought it was peanut butter. But yeah, George Washington Carver, and he is a LGBTQ member, at least from what I saw online. So
Wow, I had no idea. Yeah, that part of his identity was like definitely erased in, history class.
I mean, if you've ever heard him, well, never mind. That's going to be kind of stereotypical. Because if you've ever heard him talk, he has a very high pitch, and
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think at one point I thought he was a member of the castrati, like the way he, because of how he talked, and I've never researched if that was true or not. But yeah. Did anybody else learn that he created peanut butter growing up?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was like taught everywhere. That was
Yeah.
like
Yeah, that was like that was the default, like
Yeah.
that was like the 5th grade, history test question or whatever.
I remember that.
Yeah. I was sad when I saw that wasn't true.
So it came from the Aztecs?
Yeah, I guess the Aztecs were the first ones to do peanut butter.
Wow.
That's my
The
people.
Aztecs were also the first ones to do, okay, I'm gonna get shot because I might be wrong. Popcorn. And then the Redenbacher
Whoa.
are the ones who learned from the natives how to do popcorn, and then they took it.
So you're saying that peanut butter and popcorn are like 600 years old?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Wow. And they're indigenous, and then
Yeah, exactly. They're indigenous. Yeah.
we came in
That's
and
wild.
started.
Yeah.
Wow.
Those are my people.
Yeah.
Aztec. So,
Up next, because everyone I did so far was male, I felt like we had to bring a woman into it. Sally Ride.
No,
Sally
okay.
Ride was the first female astronaut and the youngest to go into space. And she was they put lesbian, but she was originally married to a man. But then in the end of her life, she was with a female, Tam O'Shaughnessy, for 27 years before her death. As an LGBTQ person, she also created a nonprofit to promote STEM literacy, to make sure that girls could become interested in STEM careers, and make sure that it was available to them to learn the different aspects of STEM. Any thoughts on that?
Interesting. Yeah, I know there are a lot of like STEM programs, like they're like specialized tracks that some like that particular some like charter schools offer it, and some like specialized high schools offer STEM.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been like that's been a, and there's also something called I think there's another equivalent of that has to do with like social sciences. I think it's called SHAPE. I think,
I don't remember, but yeah, I know what you're referring to.
but it's like the adjacent to what STEM is. Like for science and technology, SHAPE is for social sciences, but it's kind of similar in terms of.
Yeah, my son did some STEM classes and he really enjoyed it.
That's cool.
Yeah, because I
It
mean,
was itty bitty when he started. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
if you think back, it's changing now. The face of STEM is definitely changing. But in the beginning, it was really just rich white men and Asian for some reason, that were over in like Silicon Valley and doing all that stuff. So, you know, having someone like Sally Ride come out and not only use that education to become an astronaut, but also to make it more accessible to others. And we're seeing a change. We are seeing other diversity in STEM careers now, which has been nice. And it seems like it's so weird to me because NASA has been like, we've been finding a lot about the people of NASA and how much they used diversity to get ahead, but didn't put it out there, right? Because, you know, first person on the moon, you know, white male. You know, when they talk about their achievements, it's almost always a white male. But we learned about, you know, Katherine Johnson, getting them on the moon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't have gotten to the moon without her.
Right. Sally Ride, like there's so many others who were kind of hidden in the background when it came to space travel, whether you believe it's real or not.
Oh, right.
So
Just
the
like
movie, the movie Hidden Figures. That's
Yeah.
about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what, that movie bothers me. The scene with the guy, he goes and he knocks down the signs for the whites only bathroom.
No,
Like,
yeah. That wasn't entirely accurate. I don't think.
yeah, like that didn't happen. You know, it's like
Yeah.
this white savior complex that was written into the
Yep.
movie.
Oh,
That kind of sucked. Like you watch it and it like warms your heart and you're like, that's so amazing, but like she didn't have anyone on her side like that, so that it hurt
Right.
me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why it's important that we continue to talk about these pioneers who aren't, they've been in the background for so long, but they need to be known about, you know, known. And not just for LGBTQ, but for other groups that they are parts of, you know, for women's rights and you know, Black rights and Native, you know, Indigenous rights, things like that. So the last one I had, and this was just one that I thought was fun, not necessarily a pioneer of like science or anything, but this is just a pioneer in film to me. No one else called it a pioneer but me. The movie The Matrix is an amazing movie. I love that movie. And it really does make you think about your own existence and what's real and what's not. And it is credited to the Wachowski brothers.
Wachowskis. They don't go by the brothers anymore, obviously.
Yeah, I was gonna get into that.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
but
Yeah,
the movie itself credits the Wachowski brothers. However, since the movie, they have transitioned to female. So they're no longer Lawrence and Andy, but they are now Lana and Lily Wachowski. And I think that they were innovative in film, not only for the plot and thought of the Matrix, but even just the special effects and things in that movie. Like that was the first time that we saw the slow motion. I don't know if you guys remember. Like I saw
the bullet time, like the bullet time effects and those. Yeah,
like those
that was revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, that was new when they did that. And I mean, we know like Steven Spielberg has always been like the king of special effects, but I feel like they brought the special effects into the modern age where, that was all done on computer, obviously, not,
Yeah.
dressed up in dinosaur costumes like Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, right. It wasn't practical. It wasn't practical. Yeah.
Yeah, with chicken wire, we know Steven Spielberg does his thing, but that movie was awesome for CGI and things like that. So those were my 6 pioneers of the LGBTQ community and what they have done to kind of change the face of the world as we know it. So with that, I'm going to throw it over to everyone else to give me some that maybe I didn't mention that you are aware of.
So, as you were talking, I thought of, you were talking about Sally Ride. I just thought of, there's a transgender person, or it was kind of before we had the understanding of transgender we have today, but Polly Murray um, was actually from my hometown, from Durham, North Carolina, and one of the kids in my old youth group that I used to lead lives on Polly Murray Court, and so that was kind of how I learned about Polly Murray. And I mean, I'm kind of using, I don't know. I guess Paul. I mean, she always used she her pronouns, so I'll just stick with that. But like, but she definitely identified as non-binary, but just used different vocabulary for it. And she was like basically like before the civil rights movement, like she was doing stuff or before it really got going in the part that is recognized, like in 1940, she basically did a Rosa Parks thing on a bus in Virginia and got arrested, and um, but there wasn't any like big media fanfare about it, and so it was kind of like she was sort of paving the way for things that would happen later. Um, and part of it was that she was like pretty openly like communist, and so she wasn't like palatable or whatever for um, mainstream media. But she actually she helped to start the National Organization for Women. But she's just kind of like this invisible figure, because she's queer and she's black, or she's mixed race kind of. Um, and she yeah, just did a lot of things as a lawyer for civil rights. And was so she was like the first woman to attend law school at Howard University. Um, and she applied to go to Harvard after that to get a subsequent like degree, and was rejected because being a black woman. And then she ended up actually being a priest in the Episcopal Church, in addition to being a lawyer. And she was among the first generation of um, women priests or non-binary, like, and she's actually the first African American woman to be ordained as an Episcopal priest. She also wrote a lot of poetry. Um, so and like early in life, she was able, like one time when she got arrested for like a civil rights thing, she said she gave like she said her name was Oliver, and like um it was basically able to kind of use the fact that she had this non-binary I guess appearance, to, I mean, it was kind of to get, to not have the charges like stick to her. but yeah, I mean, so she did all of this groundwork that ended up being part of a lot of things related to civil rights, related to she was part. So she wrote a book that that basically Thurgood Marshall used. He called it the Bible of the Civil Rights Movement. He said he used it in the Brown versus Board of Education thing. And then she called out later, like in her life, she called out like the way that the civil rights movement was really patriarchal, and anti-queer. She was talking about the way that like in the March on Washington, there weren't any females who got to give like major speeches like as part of that. That it was all just men. And so yeah, so she had this really interesting life and really made a huge difference, like in all these different movements that we know about. And she's just kind of like treated like a minor figure. She has like a little street that's like 1 block long in Durham, my hometown. And the only reason I know about her is because I was like, oh, I want to look up that name, because it's Polly Murray, court. And so I found out about her, and then but yeah. So there's just like so many people out there that are, that have contributed things, and then they're just invisible, because like like someone like Thurgood Marshall, or with now, Gloria, whatever her name is, what I can't remember, the Steinem, like these other people, who were more kind of photogenic because they were, cis appearing and not queer, and, or men or whatever, they got the limelight, but they had the way paved for them by people like Polly Murray, and it's just really, really interesting to learn about that. And just the way that there's so many people that have paved the way, that we don't even know about, that didn't get any recognition.
Yeah, that reminds me. So I mean, I didn't put any like musicians on my list because um fight me for it. I think most people who are creatives have some form of queer in them anyway. So like I
Yeah.
wasn't going to argue, oh, Walt Whitman, and so I left them off the list. But what you were saying reminds me, I learned recently of this jazz singer named Billy Tipton. Have you guys heard of Billy Tipton?
Mm.
So Billy Tipton was assigned female at birth, and they wanted to be a jazz singer when they grew up. But at the time, because this was they were born in the 1914s, they weren't allowing women to do jazz music. So like they would go to the club and get turned down. So one day they dressed as a man and auditioned, and then became a part of this jazz group that got really important. And because of that, they ended up living their life out as a man, like getting married.
Wow.
And it wasn't until they died and the coroner came to like assess the body that they realized it was female. Like,
oh my gosh.
Holy shit, you're a woman. But it was after they died. So they're from Oklahoma City, US. But yeah, it wasn't until after their death that they realized that they were transgender, which I thought, that was I mean, talk about being committed to the art. Like like they were like, I want to do my music and you're not gonna let me, so let's do this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And was very successful.
I got somebody.
It goes to show like you know, they had tried to do all of this as a woman and wasn't given the opportunity until they became a man. And I know it's a little different than LGBTQ, because the decision was made more. I don't know if they were lesbian prior to the change, but it was. I know that it was inspired by their love for jazz music and being blocked out of the jazz community. But yeah.
It sounded like somebody was saying that they had another person.
I wanted to mention Eleanor Roosevelt
Mhm.
because I mean
Oh,
there was
right.
it wasn't well known about her that she was that she had a lesbian relationship, and that she they built this place called Val Kill, where she basically was, you know, surrounded her. It says in the article, because I don't have it, you know, all my facts together, but it says during her lifetime, no lesbian, gay man, bisexual, transgender, or queer person gave a thought to their homes or actions being historic, and most were living their lives quietly or in secret. But and the place is called Valkill. LGBTQ people infused this place with meaning, and their lives and their work were fundamental to that place's significance. So it was kind of like a gathering place. And it says Eleanor Roosevelt surrounded herself with influential women that today we recognize as lesbian. Several were lifelong partners: Nancy Cook and Marion Dickerman, Molly Dawson, Molly Dewson, and Polly Porter, Esther Lape, and Elizabeth Reed. These women enlivened Val Kill as much or more than anyone else. Cook and Dickerman built Val Kill with Eleanor and resided there for 3 decades. Lape and Reed played an important role in Eleanor's political development and activism. Eleanor had a lengthy and intimate relationship with journalist Lorena Hickok. Their extensive and sensual correspondence is now well known.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt because I watched this Showtime series called The First Lady, and she was played by Gillian Anderson from The X-Files, and
Okay.
her relationship and her homosexual relationship and her histories were actually covered in that show, which I was really surprised about that they actually covered that.
Dude,
But they
she
did.
was born in 1884. The
Yeah.
1800.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
I
insane.
mean, that makes sense because he was for World War II, the Great Depression. So they would have been alive. But holy shit.
That's wild.
There's an article written about her too called Courage to Love, Gender and Sexuality in the Life of Eleanor Roosevelt. And it's available. It was a paper written by Susan Ferentinos, who is like a PhD. And it's a report that you can download.
I'll have to do that.
It has all the pictures of all the people that I just named. So maybe it's on nps.gov. Maybe I could put it in the chat if anybody wants to look at it.
Okay. Yeah. I've been kind of looking into a lot of the first ladies. I watched. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. I'm sorry. Okay, I think I have ADHD, but I watched the Lady Bird tapes from Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, Lady Bird Johnson. So the whole time in the White House, she recorded her diary. And after she died, I think in 2003, they released the tapes. So they made a documentary out of it. And like the things she knew and like her impact on Lyndon B. Johnson's presidency were like, it like blew my mind. Like I didn't even know these things about her or him. That was pretty cool. But I would love to like get that from like all the first ladies, like because there's like information. Because you know how they said that JFK had a secret lover that was a man, his best friend, that was always with him. I want to know more about him. He was just a playboy. You know what I mean? Like I wholeheartedly believe he was bisexual. Like he was just a party boy. I think they alluded to it in Chappaquiddick too, which is also a very good movie if you guys haven't seen it.
Oh no, wait. Isn't that about Robert F. Kennedy though? Not about
Chappaquiddick
JFK?
is about Ted Kennedy.
Oh, Ted Kennedy. Oh, okay.
He got drunk and like drove this girl into a river, and like he got
Right.
out. They never called the cops. He got out and like went home, and like the next day they called the cops and like found her body in the river. And he was like never, he didn't go to
The
jail.
girl's name was Mary Jo Kopechne.
Yeah, Kopechne.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he was a senator. Like that family just has the Kennedy family, like if you ever
Yeah, it's the Kennedy curse. Yeah.
yeah, you go down that rabbit hole, it's amazing. I'm always especially November last month, I watched so many documentaries. Like I'm just obsessed with the Kennedys and everything that they did.
And there's a Kennedy who's supposed to run for president apparently now
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
2024
Kennedy
election.
Jr. It's RFK Jr.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
But he's kind of nutty though. He doesn't have all his he's not all his marbles there. I don't know. He's a little
I
stuff
haven't
he's been
looked him
saying
up.
is a little, I don't know.
Oh, the conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, him, right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Listen,
he's
I don't know if there's a Kennedy and they tell me there's a conspiracy, I believe them.
He's an anti-vaxxer.
He was talking about because RFK stole JFK's brain from the Smithsonian, and like no one knows why or where it is. Like that has nothing to do with LGBTQ. Back to LGBTQ pioneers. Did anyone else have any pioneers? We had a president that was supposedly gay.
Are you talking about Lincoln?
Not Lincoln. Lincoln like wrestling. You leave him alone. No, it was the one. He's the only president that wasn't married in the White House. You guys are gonna make me look it up.
Was it never married?
Thomas Jefferson?
Mm-mm. James Buchanan.
Oh,
Jefferson impregnated his slave.
They all did. Washington has had a black son too. The father of the nation. His son's bloodline. I only know that because the son's like 2 years ago. I say 2 years ago, like 2016 was 2 years ago, but like I think it was around 2016. His son's bloodline. So they still have the Washington name, and they're black, and they don't get any of the the inheritance that the white side of the family has. Like if you're part of the Washington lineage, but like they've done blood tests and everything. Like that's his son. So they were fighting for rights over something George Washington had. Might have been his plantation or something, but yeah, interesting.
Father Washington had many sons. Many sons have Father Washington. I am one of them, and so are you. La, da, 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 da. Okay, that was my move.
And just so that we're not sued, I just want to let you know that, like, I said Jason Buchanan because he was rumored to be gay, but you know, wasn't really gay, you know.
Weren't there like there were more than a few presidents that were rumored
Yeah,
to be gay.
Alexander Hamilton.
I mean, I heard that
Because he had a
Lincoln might have
Broadway
been
show
rumored.
named after him.
You heard what? What'd you say?
I heard Lincoln might have been gay or something.
Well, that's what I said. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things about Lincoln, and you know that there was someone that he was very very close to, a male friend, throughout his life.
Joshua Speed was the name. This is his best friend growing up. Yeah. We're reaching
There's
our.
lots of I think there's lots of movie stars, like Rock Hudson, I think was one.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
And there was I thought I heard something about the not Nat King Cole. Who's that other famous like jazz singer?
Billie Holiday.
No, it was a man.
Man, um, not Langston Hughes.
No. Well, I know Nat King Cole had a daughter, but I mean, I don't know if it was him, but it was somebody as famous as he was.
Hmm.
And they put it in that movie. They didn't say it outright, but they put it in that movie, Mrs. Maisel, where
Oh, the TV series.
yeah, and she was opening entertainment for this singer who was like a very popular among the ladies, but they suggested that he was gay, and she made a crack about it in her act, and then she got fired. That's the end of that Miss Maisel movie. But the guy, whoever the guy was based on somebody who was actually a real person, a famous singer, I guess, during the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who that would be
Who
though.
was a heartthrob. I thought it was somebody like Nat King Cole, but I'm not sure if it was him or.
I don't. I've actually never watched that show before, so I couldn't tell you.
I'll look it up. I can probably.
Yeah, there was a long list of poets. Emily Dickinson. I mean, Shakespeare. Like, there was just so many that were listed. So while we're a poetry podcast, and I wanted to pull them all up, I just was like, we're gonna skip over that.
Yeah, I mean, you could dedicate a whole segment to that actually.
Yeah,
if you wanted to.
and it was all open to interpretation. Like, oh, at that one time they wrote this poem about a pink sweater, so we think they may have been gay. And it was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this with y'all today. I just
there was a whole bunch of movie stars during the time of Rock Hudson. Montgomery Clift was another one. Tab Hunter. They were all represented by the same group of talent agents.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stories about the parties they used to have at their house with like USC athletes that were gay for pay and stuff like that. And there was all these things about that. That was and there was also a whole thing about this man who ran a gas station that had both male and female prostitutes working there and stuff like that.
So while we got off topic at the end, the main thing, this is the first in a series of many. We'll definitely continue to talk about other pioneers throughout the year. we just highlighting some of the things that LGBTQ persons have done to change the world as it is today, and hopefully to change it even further going forward. So I thank you guys. Let me end the live here.